Okay, I thought I'd do a quick recording just showing how these Esprit boards are actually made, in case you're curious as to how it's actually done. So the first thing you need is blank PCBs. You order them online and they come looking like this. They're just blank FR4 substrate with no components on them. So another useful thing to have is a template which has holes in it for the solder paste, and I'll show that being used later on. And then you have all the components. The way we're doing them is we have them separated out into separate bags, just to make it really easy to find each component by designator. You can look them up and just quickly put them onto the boards that way. And some of the components require special storage because they're sensitive to moisture, and they need to be stored separately. And to keep track of all these components, I use a program named PartsBox, written by Jan Richter. It's actually in ClojureScript. And I use it to keep track of, the parts that I have on hand. It's got a database that tells me what I have and what I need to order. Then I know whether or not I have enough to build each board. Now, the next step is to put paste on these boards. And I'm going to clean this template. And the idea is that I can take one of these boards and I have the template kind of lined up, but I'm going to put the board into a little section that I built on my mat there. And I put the template down over on top of that and tape it down. Now there are, people will buy special machines to do this, but I'm just kind of doing it with tape onto my mat. And to make sure that things are lined up, you have to look really close. I can't really see that well, so I use a magnifying glass just to make sure that the fine pitch lines are lined up. And then I use solder paste and just kind of spread it across through the holes. Try to get it evenly. I didn't quite get it on all of them this time. And then I do a vertical stripe to kind of clean them off. And that basically the idea there is putting this solder paste on the pads on the board. And then when you lift it up, if you did a good job, they'll be pretty much on the board, on the pads right there. Okay, and here's a picture showing a kind of a close-up to show that the solder paste is actually directly on the pads. That one is a really good one, and it's ready to be used. And on this one, the solder is not really lined up that well. There's places that could lead to solder bridges if the solder's touching each other. You can see this one's not really good to be used. And in that case, you really have not much other choice other than to wipe the board and do it over again. I think I'm probably wiped maybe around a third of the boards. And it's worth it because if you try to use a board that's not really pasted really well, you'll pay for it later on with solder bridges. And so it's good to get it right the first time. And here's a batch of 10 boards that have had paste put on them, and they're ready to go. And here's my daughter. She's placing individual components on the board. This is her summer job. She's really good at this. She gets them right on there. And after a couple hours work, she's got them all on there. Much better than I could do. Now they're put on a tray and ready to go into the reflow oven. And this oven will heat them up to the point where the solder paste melts and the components are basically attached to the board. Incidentally, this reflow oven was made for me by Bill Hurd. He's actually thinking about making these available generally for people. And after about 10 minutes, the reflow process is complete and the boards can be taken back out and they're ready to go. The only remaining bit is to actually test each board. Here I'm programming a test program onto the board that lights up the LEDs. And I also attach it to some LEDs to make sure that those GPIO pins actually work. So with enough testing, the boards are ready to be shipped. Okay, thanks for watching. Hopefully this satisfied some curiosity on your part, and now you know how these are actually made. Thank you.